You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast.
You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. My name is Sean Wilkie, and along with my awesome co-host, we interview the innovators in this space every week. Ivan, please introduce today's guest.
Hey, I'm Zach, and I'm really excited to introduce our guest, Eric Humbert. Eric is a head of science and AI at Invoxia, a role he has held for the past 2 years after spending 10 years as AI director. He specializes in signal processing and machine learning for sensor data, particularly audio and motion signals. Over his career, he has built algorithms for denoising, keyword spotting, and robust event detection in noisy real-world conditions. He has also developed activity recognition models and methods to estimate health-related parameters from wearable sensors. Today, he leads the science and AI strategy behind Invoxia's Biotracker and Biotrack platform, turning multimodal data into actionable insights for pet health. Eric, welcome to the show. Thank you for finding the time.
Thank you for having me.
So in Voxia, we had a couple wearables back to back here. So it sounds like and seems like with all the new AI platforms, there's more and more analytics that we can do and interpret, which is very interesting, but also creates significant competition in the market. So tell us what Invoxia is doing different and why we should pay attention.
Yeah, so first, I think it's a good thing that we have competition. It just shows that we all have the same idea, so it must be a good idea. We just have to convince the vets that it is. So the more we are, maybe the better. A lot of very good products. And what we do different maybe is that we have a strong AI background. So we use this a lot to be very accurate. So we are building a sensor that is non-invasive and that measures heart rate and respiratory rate, and also can detect individual heartbeats. So we can analyze heart arrhythmias and heart rate variability. And this seems like an easy task, but it's kind of very difficult. You can't use the same sensors that are used for humans, the optical sensors that just don't work with the fur of the dog. So you have to do something different. And so we wanted to put a sensor on a dog to collect data because we know that connected health is the future and it's very difficult to keep the sensor on the dog. So for this, we had to make a product which is very comfortable first. So non-invasive, and that works in any position, that the collar can be tight or not. It has a nice design and it can easily be clipped on any collar, really any collar. So we want all this to be very easy, simple, and comfortable. So the tracker is always on the dog and that we can collect data because it's all about collecting data. The power of AI is using the data, but you have to collect a ton of them.
That's amazing. So, I mean, one of the things that all of that makes me think is you guys have been around as a consumer product for a while. And so maybe we should just back into this conversation. You know that there's others out there, but how long have you guys been around and what is it that you've been up to? Paint the picture, I guess, for our audience. Who are you?
Yeah, so we are a tech company in Invoxia, and actually we are mostly engineers, and we've been building trackers for about 8 years now, and we have 400,000 users worldwide. So we are really into connected devices and trackers, and we've been into pet tech for 5 years now. It's the fourth generation of the tracker. And yeah, we have a very strong AI background. You said it in my bio, because first we worked on audio product and we did a lot of machine learning. And so we applied this machine learning to motion signals because that's what is at work in the sensors that we're using in the collar, which by the way is called the Biotracker for dog. I had to say it as well. So 8 years trackers, 5 years in pet techs, and using a lot of AI. Yeah.
So pretty cool. This does describe quite a lot of trackers and the data collection and how do you interpret it. What is special? What is that you guys have? If I went onto a tracker display and said that this is the one that I want because of what is this?
Okay, so I think I just have to finish what I wanted to say about the fact that the tracker has to be one. So it has to be a consumer product. So in fact, it's already a consumer product that has been on the market for 2 years. And we have happy clients. And this is important because we can see that we are collecting data. And in fact, we know that half of our users are wearing the collar more than 80% of the time, and a quarter of them wear it more than 98% of the time. So that's one of the things that I think is different, because some GPS tracker, there are just one when you go for a walk. And so you can collect the data as it matters, the data when the dog is relaxed, the data at night, all those vitals, they are very significant if they are taken at the right time. So we take about 1 hour of measurements all day, heart rate and respiratory rate, and also activities. Every 5 seconds, we can estimate the activities between walking, trotting, running, petting, playing, transportation, and also barking, which is very interesting. And so that's one thing. It's a consumer product that consumer likes, and they keep it on. The other thing is medical accuracy. So I like to compare it to an Apple Watch. It's a kind of an Apple Watch for dog. There are two sides. One side is the consumer side, and the other one is the medical side. So we have the consumer side. It's proven. It's been selling for 2 years. And we wanted to prove that we were also almost medical grade for measurements. And we worked really a lot, and we want to prove that we are not a gadget. That's why we published our accuracy results, and we published some papers. And maybe I'll have to talk about that later.
So what kind of medical data? So as a veterinarian, how could I use your data? Where it would fit into my workflow? This is one of the biggest problems that I've seen with the wearable devices, is that they're all interesting. They're all collecting interesting information. But how does that fit into my day-to-day appointments that I see and the pets that I interact with as their family veterinarian?
Yeah, exactly. So we found out that, in fact, our users, they are genuinely passionate about their dog's health. And that's why we wanted to go and meet the vets. And it's quite new. So at VMX, we announced a new platform called Biotrack. And it's a platform when the vets can access to all the dogs that are monitored. So we've built a solution for vets for monitoring dogs. So it's a website. It's on biotrack.invoxia.ai. You just log in and you see all the dog that are monitored. It's 3 levels. First, you have a dashboard when you can, in one glance, see all the dogs with color badges and with arrows that shows the trends of the metrics, if they are worsening or getting better. So that's the first level. Then you have alerts. So we have AI continuously analyzing the metrics, the heart rates, the HRV metrics, heart rate, viability, the respiratory rate. So we are analyzing the trends and sending alerts. So you can very easily see the context of the alert and decide what you have to do. The other level is then you can dig into the data. You can really dig into all the history graphs. There we have Lawrence plots. We have really all the metrics that are collected. You can see them in nice graphs, and you have all the context. So I think that's really something we are very happy to have launched. It's very easy to use, and we think of 2 models for distribution.
So I want to loop it back into the clinical data. So I understand there's a lot of data that's coming out. There's a lot of graphs that people can look at. As a veterinarian, how would I use it? What would be a use case for me, and where I could incorporate it so I could say, hey, you should have the Invoxia Biotracker because I will get this information and this is how I'm going to use it.
Yeah, so we see 3 major use cases. The first one is chronic disease monitoring. So MMVD is a great example here. The vet can follow long-term cardiorespiratory trends and get alerted of a gradual rise of those rates long before decompensation or long before congestive heart failure. So that's the first one. And actually, it's very personal for me because my dog is a Cavapoo. So it's a mix of Cavalier King Charles and Poodle. And you know that Cavaliers are really predisposed for one kind of disease, which is MMVD. And I'm happy that I can follow the metric of my dogs, although today he's healthy. I know that collecting data daily will help me in the future detect when something goes wrong. And so it's helping me having the baselines for my dog. So that's the first use case. Second use case is post-op follow-up. So you can check remotely that recovery is progressing normally. And if something starts to change, So if you see reduced activity or altered sleep or abnormal vitals or patterns that may suggest discomfort or pain in the HRV signals, it becomes much more easy to catch it early. And the third use case is treatment monitoring. So for example, diuretics, it's a good example. The dosage is complicated. So when the dosage is adjusted or treatment is changed, the vet can see the objective effect on the breathing rate. And in some cases, it can refine the dosage in real time. I really would like to recommend everyone here, and you, Ivan, in particular, to try it for yourself, because there's a demo mode on the platform. So you can go to biotrack.invoxia.ai, you can create a vet account, and you can activate the demo mode, and you'll be able to see 20 of our real users, anonymized data, of course, but 20 dogs with real data, and some of them being followed for more than 2 years. And you'll have access to all the data. You can see the alerts. You can see everything. So I think it might be one mean also to understand how the platform works.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So what we're talking about here is a level of medicine. It's like take-home monitoring for these pet parents that want the very best for their animal. And what's the business model? I know there's been a bunch of people have come and done this before, but if I'm a veterinarian listening to the show right now and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I have a relatively affluent clientele that would be interested in something like this. I guess how much does it cost and how much do I make out of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's where it's getting really exciting for clinic owners and for vets, because I'm sure you know that in the United States, a lot of clinics are seeing a decline in the number of visits. And so there's a real challenge here. And what we are offering could be one way to reverse that trend, because when a dog is wearing a Biotracker and the data is shared with the clinic, that tracker becomes a physical, permanent link between the patient and the vet. So even between appointments, and when parents know their dog is being monitored, they are more likely to come back. So the direct consequence is better patient retention. There's another important thing is that the visits that do happen, they become more qualified. So instead of a vague something seems off appointment, the vet can say, I noticed your dog's breathing rate has been trending up for the past 2 weeks. Let's follow up with an ultrasound. So that's a visit driven by objective data. That's a completely different conversation. And so in practice, what the clinic can do, they can offer a new service. They can offer a personalized home monitoring service. The pet parent pays a fee, and in return, they know their dog is being continuously monitored by the vet. So that's a powerful value proposition. And now for the actual trackers, we've set up 2 distribution models. First one is leasing. So for $150 per year, the clinic gets 1 tracker, full warranty, customer support, 4G connectivity with a SIM card included, and access to the Biotrack platform. The idea is that the vet can lend the tracker to a patient for a couple of weeks. The parents just install the app and the dog appears automatically in the vet's dashboard. That's super simple. And here's the math. If one vet is monitoring just 10 chronic patients at, let's say, $20 per month, that's $200 a month in recurring revenue. So for a leasing cost of $150, you're profitable from month 1. We really want the vets to use it, so it's quite affordable. The second model is resale. So the clinic buys the tracker and it can resell it to the parent and keep the distributor's margin. So basically, you buy it for $100 and you sell it for $200 and you get 100 margin. But we also wanted to make it even simpler. So if the parent bought the tracker themselves on our website or on Amazon, they can also simply send a sharing link from the app to their vet. And then the vet creates an account and boom, they have access to all the data. So the platform works regardless of how the tracker was acquired.
So I've got a question, and Eric, even though you're the guest, it's not for you. It's for you, Ivan. Would you do this? Would you try this? Would you look at it as a source of revenue for the clinic? Something you're open to? I know a guy. His name's Eric. He could set you up with a few.
I think it would be interesting to know specific use cases. This is where I ask Eric, how does that fit into my day-to-day life? Because theoretically, I think it's a great idea. There's a couple use cases that you get the data to prove that it's working, but how does it fit into my day-to-day? It's kind of still difficult for me to appreciate because it's not likely that I'm going to go to a dashboard every day to see what dog's respiration went up to then contact them. It's more like if you show up with this data and it's a part of my exam, that's interesting data point that I can refer to. But continuous monitoring, that's got to be someone's job to look at this and say, oh, this changed. So now we need to use this. So this is where I find with a lot of things that you deploy to veterinary clinics is that you need to understand how the vets are working and where it will fit into their day, because our days are crazy. And then if you see 15-minute appointments in between, who, when, and how is going to go and check out this data and how valuable it's going to be if this pet doesn't have this condition. So I think it's, we're brainstorming here, and that's an interesting question that you asked, Sean. I guess the challenge would be, I think it works for consumer. For the veterinarians, it really needs to be served to them with a particular purpose, like a diagnostic test, like a prescription. So purposefully for what condition the vet should have in mind and say, oh, I have a dog with a potential congestive heart failure. I need to monitor their own diuretics. This is what we prescribe to all the pets with that condition. If you positioned it this way and directly sold it like that, vets need to be spoon-fed how this works, because otherwise they don't really want to change. So maybe there we go. Sean is showing me a little spoon on camera here.
So, Eric, a question to you. Is there alerts, right? Because Ivan's not going to look at the dashboard, but if he got an alert, like an email alert, he would then maybe use that to do a follow-up exam.
Yeah, of course. I've talked about the alerts in the platform, and of course the alerts are also sent by email, one to the parents and one to the vets. And in the email, you have all the information you need. You have the plots also, and you can also ask for being alerted by text message.
It's amazing. Well, there's definitely something here, and I know there is, because one, there's a bunch of companies doing this. I think more than ever, more connected. Humans are so connected. Animals are next. There's lots of people following this, and I can't wait to follow your guys' progress. But like every single week, we've run out of time. So we've got a couple of questions to ask you before we wrap up. The first one is book, YouTube video, TED Talk, something that you found inspiring on your AI data science journey that you've been on for a whole career.
Yeah, so I would recommend, I really liked reading Hackers and Painters by Paul Graham. So it's not new, it's 20 years old, but it was new to me. I found it a very stimulating book. It's full of ideas about technology and society. It explores many domains like creativity, design, independent thinking, and it also talks a lot about the unique power of startups to drive innovation.
And the second question that we ask, is there another innovator in our industry that you would recommend to be a guest on this podcast?
Yeah, so actually, I'd like to recommend two veterinary professors I've worked with and who also serve in our scientific board. So one of them is Professor Valerie Chedbou, and she's a very respected cardiologist, and she's published more than 500 papers. And we've published one paper with her in Frontiers in Veterinary about the study that's called AI Car study. And she's really fantastic, and she's done a lot of things in veterinary cardiology. And the second one, if I can, is another professor, American this time. It's Professor Sidney Moyes from Cornell University, whose work on cardiac arrhythmias in dogs has been truly groundbreaking and really inspiring for us.
Thank you so much for listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. If you want to hear about our new episodes, please follow us on any social media channel. Also, you can check out our website at veterinaryinnovationpodcast.com. See you next week.